Hello there. I just wanted to get on here and talk about something that every foreigner who wants to work in Japan is going to have to deal with at some point, and that thing is, of course, a work visa. I personally have been working under such a visa since 2014. Initially, when I came here, I was on a student visa and then changed over to the work visa when that became required to work full time. Student visas only let someone work part time, so I, of course, needed the work visa at that point. As the name implies, it allows an individual to work here legally. However, it's restricted to a certain type of work or industry. Simply having the visa doesn't let you get any job at any company. There are certain conditions that need to be met. When you're given the visa, the restrictions are in fact stated on your residence card, and I'll have an example of that. Here's a shot of the relevant part of the residence card. For my first job, I was in fact working as an English teacher, and that is in fact assigned two restrictions, which are labeled Specialist in Humanities as well as International Services. Other English teachers who are watching this video, I'm sure will be familiar with those. Those are the two standard restrictions for English teachers. However, later on I got my current job, which is making websites as well as doing some programming. Although the job also has some English-related aspects to it, such as doing some translations as well as answering emails in English once in a while. And as such, my visa actually has engineering in addition to the previous two restrictions that I talked about. After a work visa is issued, it can last anywhere from 6 months to as long as 5 years, although I've never actually heard a foreigner who only got 6 months. At the bare minimum, they pretty much get 1 year. But I'm sure 6 months does happen. So with all that said, let's get into the main point of this video. I'm here to talk about my experience with renewing my work visa from start to finish. Please also note that this video is about renewing a work visa with the same company. There's more to it if you're in fact changing companies, so please be aware of that. There's also a lot more to it if you're actually getting a new visa. That was so long ago that I honestly don't remember it. These are also going to be my own experiences, and they very well may be different for you. You can use this video as a baseline, but please do your own research. Please also note that this information is accurate as of January the 12th, 2020. If you're watching this video in the future, things very well may have changed, and it's your responsibility to account for any such changes that may have occurred. So, let's get into it. The first step is that you need to go to the immigration office to renew your work visa, and you can only do so if it's close to the time that the visa expires. I've read that can be anywhere from between 60 to 90 days in advance. If you try to renew your visa earlier than that, they very well may reject your application and tell you to come back later. I, in fact, went to the office within 30 days of expiration, which is well within the timetable. The process actually has two steps to it. The first step is submitting the necessary documents, and the second step is going to pick up your new visa. So let's go into step one. For the first step, preparation, I'm going to talk about the documents that I needed to submit and any materials that I needed to bring with me. The first document that you need to get is the application for extension of period of stay, which looks like something that you see on screen here. You may notice in the top right there's a place for a photo, which is something that you'll also need to get. In my case, I had my photo taken on a white background and was able to edit it myself. I then took it to a store to have it printed and save some money. However, if you can't do that, then the simplest way is to use a photo booth for ID photos. You can typically find these in the major stations as well as outside of some convenience stores. In fact, the store right next to the immigration office actually had one. These have multi-language support and have something where you can select photos for residence card application or something of that matter. If you do use one of these, then the photo will cost around 800 yen. But anyway, back to the application form. These are some of the pages that I had to fill out, and there are some pages that my company also had to fill out. This is one of the pages that I needed to do. Let me zoom in a little bit here. The pages that I had to fill out come first in the document, and they are labeled as for applicant. Please be sure that you have the correct form with the conditions appropriate to your visa. As I said earlier, for me, those are engineering, specialist in humanities, and international services. You don't want to submit the wrong form as they will reject it. The later pages of the form are labeled as for organization, and those are what your company has to fill out. Apart from the application form, there are some other documents needed. Here's a list complete with the Japanese names and pronunciations. The first three are ones that the company prepared for me, and these are Zai Shoku Shomeisho, or proof of employment. Basically, they want to know that you actually have a job and there's proof of it. The second one is Hote Chosho Go Keihyo, which loosely means a legal record total table. Something about the company's taxes, I guess proof that the company is paying taxes. And the last one is Gensen Shoshuhyo, which is information about tax withheld for the individual. If you're from the US, this is kind of like a W-2 form. Although you may actually not need this, in my case I didn't actually have to submit it, although I did get it prepared just in case they wanted it. The next documents are ones that I needed to go and get myself. These documents are Kaze Shomeisho and Noze Shomeisho, which are basically documents that show tax payment and tax compliance. These were actually obtainable at the ward office. Depending on where you live, you might have to go to City Hall. It just depends on the municipality. Lastly, I needed to bring my passport and current residence card with me. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Once all the material was in order, I went over to the immigration office. Once the train arrived, I made sure to rush right over to get as much of a head start as possible, and this is why. The scene inside always looks something like this. This shot doesn't even show the whole room. And there's also a place outside for people to sit as well, so there are even more people than you can see in this photo here. The place to go is the application and consultation counter. You need to go there and take a number, hence why I wanted to get that head start. In my case, I got number 2099. But when I took the photo of the monitor, they were only up to 2030. The entire waiting process took almost 2 hours. When my number finally did come up, I submitted all the material that I mentioned earlier. The staff reviewed all of my documents, and thankfully there were no problems with them. The final step of the process was then writing my address on a postcard and also being issued a receipt. By the way, be sure to keep that receipt. And that's pretty much it for the first part of the process. Now, let's get on to the second part. The postcard that I mentioned before looks something like this. They mailed it to me about 10 to 12 days after submitting my application. If you ever see this postcard, then you know that all is well. It basically signifies that there were no problems with the visa application and that you can go and pick up your visa, and you must do so by the date that is stated on the card. If, however, there had been some problems, I would have gotten some kind of notice telling me what the problems were and how to fix them. One example of that was maybe around 5 years ago. I had one experience where apparently they wanted proof that the company I was working for was actually paying me, which, why would I work for free? I don't know. So I supplied what they wanted and I got the postcard maybe a week after fixing it. In my case this year, the postcard arrived near the end of the year, and I knew that the office was going to be closed because New Year's holidays were right around the corner. Otherwise, I would have been able to get my visa sooner. Although I got it before the deadline, so it didn't really matter. When you get the postcard, it also conveniently tells you what you need to bring when picking up your new visa. These materials include the postcard itself, the receipt issued when submitting the application, again, don't lose that, your passport, your residence card, and a revenue stamp for 4,000 yen. I'll talk about that last one in a moment. So then I had to go to the immigration office a second time. The scene inside the immigration office looked like this. So like the first day, there were a lot of people there. Of course, there were a lot more people there than can be seen in the photo here. In my case, I had to go to the postcard window and hand them my residence card and passport, and was then issued a number. This time, I was issued number 7201. When I sat down, they were serving numbers all over the place. I really don't get why there were so many gaps in the numbers, but unlike the first day, thankfully I only had to wait about 15 to 20 minutes. I also mentioned the 4,000 yen revenue stamp earlier. After the first step is completed, there's a document that looks like this where you need to place the stamp. The stamp can actually be purchased on site, although I'm not sure if that's unique to this particular immigration office or not. Instead of just paying for your visa directly, you pay for this stamp and it acts like a proof of payment. I always did think it was a little strange system, but anyway. When my number did come up, I went over and I got back my passport as well as my new residence card. They also give you back your old residence card with a hole in it, which signifies that the card is no longer valid. After that, the process was completed. I requested a 5-year visa, and I'm happy to say that I did in fact get all 5 years. The previous extension that I did was 3 years, and all times prior to that, they only ever gave me 1 year, which was really disappointing. Even if you request a 3 or 5-year visa, they very well may ignore that and only just give you the 1 year. There's even a part of the document that says that the extension time may be different than what was requested. I don't actually know the deciding factors on getting a visa extension longer than 1 year. However, I believe one of them has to do with the size of the company where you're employed. Larger companies may look better to the immigration office than smaller ones. In fact, the company that I was working in the past was in fact a smaller company, so that very well may be why the 3 years were declined back then. Not entirely sure. But when I was talking about the necessary documents earlier in the video, I seem to recall there being some guidelines on the company size as well. For example, people who are working at a smaller company may actually need to submit more documents than were stated in this video. I do know that if you're changing jobs, you do need to submit more documents, but yeah, I can't really tell you about what those documents may actually be. So if you are doing a visa renewal, just be sure that you have everything you need. You can always call the immigration office and they'll help you out. They'll ask you about the size of the company and whatnot. Hopefully your Japanese is okay though. But anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you found it informative. If I have any more news or info, I will make another video. But until then, thanks for watching.